Go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tiffany Thoen. I'm an intuitive eating coach, and I'm here with Emily Corso, the owner of Bold and Badass. Today, we're going to talk about the kind of COVID-19 time, and the term we wanted to coin was body responsibility right now. So, Emily, do you want to tell us a little bit about Bold and Badass, and then we can dive in?
Oh yeah, sure. Bold and Badass Fitness is it's a fitness community for people that they want to work out, they want to feel awesome, but they don't necessarily feel like they jive with mainstream fitness culture, and they just want a supportive community where they can focus on living their best life. That's what we do.
I love that so much. Yeah, so in preparation for this, we were really talking about how we're seeing like, is now a good time to like focus on losing weight? Is it a good time to really like crush your goals? These things. Um, and initially we were talking about like our belief is really that I'll speak for myself. It's really never a good time to focus on weight as a health outcome, right? That really divorcing weight from our health is much much more likely to give you better outcomes. So we can certainly still focus on health and well-being and take care of ourselves. But weight, in my realm, focusing on weight actually leads to more disruption with our bodies, right? And like kind of fighting against our bodies. What's your perception, Emily?
Yeah, about like weight loss as a goal in general. Yeah,
Or
so
right now?
yeah, right now especially. I mean, I think in general, weight loss is one of the least useful goals for most people, and that's just because even if you have things that you wish were different, that's okay. I take a slightly different perspective than a lot of the body positive community, which is just that like I accept clients with all kinds of goals, but I feel that people should focus on what they really want to accomplish, whether or not weight is a metric for that thing. So thinking about like, do you want to feel confident and comfortable? That might not have to do with your pant size, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in particular, right now, I think the problem with weight loss as a goal is that there's so much other stuff going on. This is going to be one of the absolute hardest times to have that as a focus. It's not going to help you get more out of get more out of your quarantine life, or actually be safer in any way, as we've also talked about. And so I think that this just maybe isn't the best time to have an aggressive fitness goal of any kind unless that thing feels good to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, right now there's this pressure to kind of be productive or make, the best use of this time possible. And I think there's a lot of reasons that's problematic. One, and in my view, this is kind of tied into productivity in general, focusing on external, like the way that we look and these things too, is that like somehow we're going to be good enough, right? If we accomplish this thing.
Right. We'll
And
have
that
something to
somehow,
show for it.
yeah, like as if our value and our worth is is dependent on like this thing happening, right? Or doing this thing or accomplishing this thing. And so, I do a lot of work with my clients and like really disconnecting those ideas and recognizing like our value and our worth is constant and has nothing to do with, whether come out of COVID-19 the same size or whether you, whatever, right? Or whether you got like even if it's just something like got your whole backyard like manicured or something. But fitness in particular right now is, I feel like you're just going to be like really fighting against some really normal processes, right? Like our bodies are going through something right now because there's like a global threat.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's a whole physiological response to the trauma, to the uncertainty, to the grief that people are feeling, the loss of their regular routines. And I think, one of the best pieces of advice, this goes so much bigger than fitness, but for right now, is just not to try to recreate what you had, right?
Mm.
Whatever it was you were doing in the outside world, whatever it was and you were doing the time before COVID, we can't necessarily make everything the way it is now feel the same as that. And so what I see with a lot of my members is like, the gym wasn't just a place that people went to work out for health reasons or to change their bodies or to do whatever the reasons they work out are. Was also a place of community and routine and certainty, and care. And getting all of those things could also be one of the underlying things, right? Is like a person who's really excited about working out and fitness might be trying to reclaim a sense of control over this time, but they also might be trying to get back that feeling of what it was like to have a community, or what it was like to feel strong in your body and not feel like you'd been sitting for 12 hours in one place on the couch, maybe. You
That's
know?
definitely never happened to me. That's definitely not happening over here.
Before time. Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that.
No. Yeah, actually we were talking about Zoom burnout and today in one of my groups, and people were saying like their butt is going numb, right? From sitting and being on Zoom. But yeah, I love that you're talking about this. And so absolutely, there's a physiological response happening. We're having increases levels of cortisol. We are having this constant stream, in our phones or whatever of threat, right? And so the body's response to that is going to be to avoid and to kind of shut down and to have this, you're going to feel this kind of malaise, right?
Yeah.
And so honoring that and allowing ourselves this grace during this time, right? And I think it's really important to not be judging ourselves for it. In Brene Brown's podcast, I can't remember which episode, but she talks about, I wrote it right here, that judgment demands punishment. Oh, it was the one on grief. And
that's good.
yeah. And it was like, wow. So if we're judging ourselves, that demands a punishment, right? Or that commands punishment. And instead, it doesn't mean that we don't need to use discernment. I think people get afraid that if they don't judge themselves, then they're not going to be motivated to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that being a good parent to ourselves, right? Like we still can use discernment. Like, okay, I've been laying here all day and I don't feel good because I literally haven't moved from the couch or whatever it is, right? Or haven't moved my bones or whatever that looks like for you. I think we're going to probably not feel great no matter what we're doing right now because of all the stress.
Yeah.
But there are some things we can still make choices to try to care for ourselves, right? And I think that's where that body responsibility piece comes in.
Yeah, I love that. I think, we talked about reframing on one of these other videos too, but it's like, this is really a question, not just of what you do, but why and how it feels to do it changes when you have a different impulse. And so it's like, I've seen clients that, are like, well, if you're coming from a place of shame and judgment for yourself, and it's like, well, all I do is sit all day, I have to go for a run to like make up for that somehow. That doesn't feel good. That punishment, it wears off quickly. It's hard to like, if you can't give yourself grace, especially in a time like this, in a time where the whole world is suffering, right? We're in a global pandemic. We're facing so many obstacles here. If this is the time when you can't be light on yourself, it's not going to get better after a run, right? And I say this as someone who works in fitness every day of my life. Is like, fitness is amazing. I think that exercise is amazing for all the cognitive benefits, for all the things that it does, but it doesn't make you feel any better if you can't generate that outside of a workout,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So having that compassion for ourselves, if you're not able to have that compassion, then there's something else going on. And so maybe looking at that and getting some support around it. And so for body responsibility, for me personally, where I'm at is that place of doing things for a different reason, right? And so allowing, first and foremost, my number one responsibility is to give myself the time and space to feel the things that I need to feel right now.
Yeah.
Because my body's trying to tell me things aren't right. I need to lay on the floor and just be sad sometimes, right? I need to just grieve, allow that. So giving myself that time and space and freedom to do that. And that's actually like my number one job right now. I actually had my business coach tell me like laying on the ground and like healing. And, I have some other personal things going on as well, but it was like, that is actually your job. Like that is, you're being productive in that you're allowing your body to do what it needs to do and heal right now. So that's first and foremost. And then second of all, it's doing all the self-care for the reason that like there's a global pandemic and I need extra like respect and love and care right now. So how has it looked for you?
Doing self-care?
Yeah, well, just like this whole like why we're doing things and navigating the pandemic and what is body responsibility for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, to this idea of like not trying to recreate what you had is like some of body responsibility in this for me is being like, I can't do the life that I was doing, and I can't like make up for it with a new routine. And so it's like, yeah, I need to just kind of feel what I feel. And for me that's like, getting in movement more often. I'm someone who had a lot of built-in movement in my life. i
Mm,
i bike to work. I was more active going out on my bike and walking, and so now I have to kind of like think about like being more programmatic almost,
mhm.
which is not my favorite way to do that, but it's the world we're in now. I think the other thing, to what you're saying about like, trauma and just needing to like lay on the floor sometimes, is just that when we have an unclosed loop, that thing is so much harder to deal with, right? Is like your brain has this little thing that it's ticking on in the back there, and that thing might be the genuine like existential threat of this whole crisis. That thing could also be a sense of like, judgment, like, oh, you're not focusing at work as much as you should be, or why do you keep going to the refrigerator and opening it to see what's there? Like those patterns run until we resolve them, and sometimes they're resolved by addressing them, and sometimes they're resolved by time, or therapy. But like but trying to ignore and push through, right? Trying to be like, I'm going to double down, like, maybe I feel like eating because food is comfort right now, is like, maybe you need comfort right now. Why
Yeah.
not? Why prevent yourself from having comfort in a thing like this? And it's like, sometimes when you allow yourself, I know this is a tenet of intuitive eating, is like, sometimes when you allow yourself to have that thing, the craving goes away. And that can be true for so much. If that thing that you're craving is to just unplug and lay on the floor, or just watch Netflix all day, like, there might be days where you need to do that. It doesn't get better by hating yourself for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it sounds like for both of us, letting go of judgment, allowing grace, movement. You mentioned movement. Movement definitely is something I'm actually craving more movement. I'm waking up, or I'm staying with my daughter right now. She got a rooster. The rooster's waking us up at 4 and then 5 and then 6. And usually around 6:30, I'm like, all right, that's enough. But I'm craving movement more. So I'm actually getting up and wanting to move it in the morning. I'm feeling more like restless, agitated, wanting to like do something. And so I'm going for walks, kind of, or walk runs, or doing some kind of like strength training. I'm hula hooping. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
not mix it up, right? But I've also tried like, okay, I'm gonna put a box on my thing that I check, and then I'm not doing it, right? And or I'm gonna do it at a certain time. And so I'm able to be home, and I'm able to kind of mold my day in a way that fits me pretty well right now. So I'm just kind of like wanting to mix it up and get movement all throughout the day. That seems to be helping because, yeah, like I normally I leave my house sometimes, and I don't right now. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that this has been helpful for everybody out there listening. Did you have any last thoughts?
No, I think we covered a lot of it. I think at the end of the day, just to summarize, right, like, it's about having grace, and it's just about finding what works for you and not being
Mm.
married to an idea of what it should be.
Yeah, the shoulds. Oh, let's let go of it. And I love that you said it. Like, if you can't do that, like if there's any time ever to let go of the shoulds, it's right now. Like,
Yeah. Let this be good practice for the future when we're not stuck here, right? Is like,
yeah,
we also need to give ourselves grace when everyone is not experiencing what we're experiencing.
yeah,
Maybe that's the productivity we come out of this with, right? Self-compassion.
yeah. Oh, yeah. If we all just had a little more self-compassion, it'd be awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much. If you enjoy this video, please share it, and we'll see you soon.